Before I get started, I just want to assure you that I'm not opposed to training and have engaged in a variety of effective training programs over the years. As a younger man, I spent time in the military and appreciate the role that training plays in preparing one for the challenges of the world. I also worked as a carpenter, so I understand the role that some forms of training can play in the trades and how useful direct instruction can be when you need to become certified in something like an explosive actuated tool. Also, one of my sons is a professional athlete, so I know how important training and deliberate practice can be. There is a right time and a right place to use training and direct instruction. Before I explain why training and direct instruction can actually limit your ability to learn new technology, I want to relay a recent story that I believe will help support my claims. Earlier this year, we had a snow day, and a face-to-face session that I was conducting was going to be canceled unless I moved it online. I had been using Zoom for many, many years, and I realized that I could easily move my group of learners into the online environment by using Zoom very, very quickly, and simply prepared what I was going to do for that day, sent out a couple of links, and engage my students and encourage them to participate. And we were able to communicate and collaborate all day without anybody being uncomfortable or overly uncomfortable, and without anybody needing very specific training. It just worked. More recently, because of the crisis we're facing, I also had to move a face-to-face class fully online because we are no longer able to meet face-to-face. And in moving that class fully online, I used the lessons I had learned from that snow day and also my many years of experience working with Zoom, and provided an opportunity for my students to do a quick little practice session with the tool. For those who were uncomfortable, they experimented and explored, and then when we did finally meet, things went off without any challenges or problems. Also, I've been working with some community organizations with a diverse group of people, and Zoom has become a popular tool. And I met with a community group that I'm doing some work with, and rather than try to train them how to use Zoom, we simply had a little drop-in session where people who weren't that comfortable with it connected the session. We didn't do anything in particular other than talk and laugh and explore. And in a very short period of time, through exploration, everybody realized that Zoom just worked. It went away. Zoom went away, and people could communicate and collaborate and enjoy each other's company. The people learned how to use the technology by simply experimenting with it, by exploring with it. And then when we did meet on a regular basis, again, that technology simply went away. I must stress the fact that best technology disappears, it goes away. Now, the community group leaders that I'm working with decided that, well, we want to do this right, so we want to train people how to use this, or at least build a couple of web pages and provide a tutorial for people. I actually pushed back on this a little bit, and they ended up asking somebody else to do this for them. So when I met with the individual who built the tutorial page, I asked him how he felt about it and what he thought, and why he had done it. And he basically confirmed that one of the leaders of the group expected, well, that's what you have to do. You have to build a tutorial for those people who don't know how to use the tool. And in our conversation, I very quickly realized that he did this somewhat begrudgingly, but because he was a professional trainer, building these direct instruction tutorials was something that he had done. And he asked my opinion of the tutorial, and I said, well, listen, if you are a Mac user and you've got a very more recent version of Mac, your tutorial will work. And then I said, but what about an iPad user? What about an iPhone user? What about an Android user? What about a PC user? And the reason I asked him those questions is that his instructions were really quite good, but they assumed that everybody would be looking at a desktop just like his. And when I asked him about all the other different platforms, and when you start talking about the different types of Android, wow, you can have like the plain versions of Android, you can have a Samsung version, you can have a Google version. There's so many different flavors of these Android devices that it becomes quite onerous. And I said, well, listen, if you want to build tutorials, I think you probably need to build another 10 or 12 or maybe even more to cover the entire scope. He very quickly realized that this really wasn't that good of an idea. And he knew from experience that Zoom was easy enough to work with. So rather than build all these tutorials, we just encourage people to explore and to experiment. Through our conversation, this trainer also realized he was fostering a dependence on his instruction rather than encouraging the learner to simply explore and experiment and take the responsibility for working with the tool themselves and learn the tool in a real world setting. Most people have difficulty with step-by-step instructions for technology because we have so many different interfaces: Macs, iPads, iPhones, Androids, tablets, you name it. When you see the step-by-step instructions, often they don't match what you see on your screen or your device. It's much better to simply have people explore and experiment with tools in a real-life session and give them the permission to make mistakes and to laugh at themselves and others in a collaborative setting. The people who just learn Zoom or another tool are often better guides than the experts who've been using the tools for a long time. Now, why have we fallen into this trap of training? Well, in the old days, or not that long ago, we all have worked with software and systems that are so poorly designed and difficult to use that you have to actually take a course to step you through the process. If you've ever used an ERP system or other sophisticated piece of software, then having direct instructions may be beneficial. Fortunately, most of the tools that we use in an instructional online setting have advanced to the point where you don't need the step-by-step training or direct instruction. Yes, you may need some help in unlocking some of the more sophisticated features of a learning management system, but for the most part, basic features of Moodle, Blackboard, Desire to Learn, Brightspace are all grasped through a small amount of exploration and experimentation combined with some trial and error. Few people have taken any training to use their iPhone or Android because most of the functions are relatively intuitive and there are only a few options, so trial and error isn't an onerous task. Yes, the traps of training and direct instruction are all around us. Just consider how frustrating it can be searching for instructions on YouTube. A search will bring up dozens of videos, but unfortunately, as you have found, you may have to watch many videos to find an answer because so many people who created these videos will walk you through their step-by-step process that they used on their desktops with their tools and in their context, and all too often it's different than yours. At some point, you'll just need to explore, experiment, and test out whether or not something will just work. So why wait? Now, don't forget, you don't need to learn technology alone. There also comes a point where a few minutes in a collaborative session in Zoom, FaceTime, Google Hangout, or on a forum, or even on the phone with a colleague may save you hours of frustration. When I'm hunting for a very specific answer, I'll search the related forums first before I go to YouTube. I recommend that you use the module forums to connect and collaborate with your fellow classmates and participants to find and share technology solutions, tips, and recommendations that will make your technology use in the online learning environment much more efficient. One of the biggest advantages of learning online is that you can leverage space and time, meaning you can connect with people all the time and anywhere. So don't ignore this powerful collaborative aspect of the online environment.